What's up guys, this is the Honest Outlaw here, and today I just want to do a quick video because we're going to be shooting a couple of guns out here today. I have on the table an M16 clone. This is a DPMS, not fully auto, but basically an M16 clone without the fun switch. So I wanted to do a quick comparison between this, since it's kind of the same era, of the Ruger Mini 14 that I have right here. So what I want to do is just compare a couple of the features, compare the guns a little bit, and then shoot them a little bit and just give you my overall impression of which one I think is better for which particular purpose. So we'll start with the Mini here since it's in my hand. Now the Mini 14 is a 223 variant rifle. It has a wood stock on it and it has iron sights, as you can see here. Ghost ring sights, very similar setup to the AR-15 that we're going to be talking about. Some of the differences between the two guns, even though they fire the same round, use the same sights, and can take 30-round magazines, is that the Mini 14 sadly cannot take the very plentiful AR-15 magazines like the M16 variant can. That's a big advantage if you're looking for magazines, because not only will the Mini mags be harder to find, they'll also be a little bit more expensive. This particular rifle doesn't have an optics mounting system either, similar to the Ruger, because that was kind of the feature of the times. It also doesn't have a quad rail or M-lock rail or anything like that to add accessories. Now, both of them can have aftermarket accessories. You can put an Ultimac rail on here to add a red dot and add a flashlight, which is really nice. And if this is the only AR-15 that you have and you want to switch it up a little bit, you can do the same thing with that as well. You can add a quad rail, like Daniel Defense, something like that, to this rifle as well. So two shortcomings from the guns right out of the box, but if you're buying a gun like this today new, you don't just own one, you're probably buying it for the looks, and in which case these guns both look really cool with the standard configuration and the standard furniture. Now the safety on the Ruger to me is the biggest disadvantage of the entire firearm. As you can see here, it's got a trigger guard mounted safety, so if you want to remove the safety, you stick your finger in the trigger guard and push it forward. I had a couple of you Ruger guys comment on my previous video saying that that's just fine and the NDs are user error. Well, that's true, but making a product more capable of user error, in my opinion, is still a fault. We'll go to mag changes. The AR-15 mag changes are also going to be faster. As you can see here, this is the way the Ruger rocks in the magazine. It's got the rock and lock system, kind of similar to an AK. Now, honestly, in real life, if you're using this for a defensive firearm, let's say a home defense gun, you're never going to have to reload a 30-round magazine. There's almost no accounts in the history of the United States where a homeowner had to use more than 30 rounds to get people out of his house. So this is not going to be a problem. In a combat situation or a competitive situation, it is definitely going to slow you down. But the reality is, for most cases, almost all cases, this magazine system is going to be just fine. And in some cases, people would argue that the rock and lock system is actually stronger for the overall mechanism. So you can argue that all day. I prefer, honestly, the straight in of the AR-15 system. Just straight up and in the gun, and it locks. And you're good to go there. And the magazine release is also a little bit easier. You can do it a little bit faster. The magazine's drop free instead of having to strip the magazine out. But again, that doesn't slow you down too much in all reality. For a defensive gun, not a real big deal. Although I do slightly prefer the AR-15, but I'm a little biased also. Moving back to the sighting systems, as you can see, the sights on them, the Ruger actually has a longer sight radius. Theoretically helps you be slightly more accurate. However, the M16 is one of the most accurate combat rifles in the history of combat rifles. Probably the most accurate as far as barrel action, everything, how it locks up. Very, very accurate platform. It also has some of the lowest recoil of any rifle system because it has a... I have neighbors. What are you gonna do? It has some of the lowest recoil of any rifle system because of the buffer system, whereas the Mini 14 has the Grand system, kind of the M1 Grand action, which makes it very reliable and very cool, because the M1 Grand is one of the coolest rifles of all time. But it does have a little bit more recoil comparatively. You remember the 223 5.56 caliber doesn't have that much recoil to begin with, but as far as fast follow-up shots, the threaded barrel to allow a flash hider to, even a flash hider, if you guys don't know, pushes the barrel down just a little bit and helps you keep on target. The Mini 14 is just a hair slower, but again, for a defensive gun, not a competitive situation, it's not really going to matter at all. One of the cons to the Mini 14 system that I want to address is, although the wood stock looks awesome and actually more likely is superior in a courtroom setting, because if you're gonna shoot somebody inside your house, you're gonna end up in a courtroom after that. And this is probably gonna look better to a jury and a judge. Honestly, it looks less evil than something like the AR-15, M16 clone type thing. But the advantage to it is if you have a rifle with a collapsible stock, you can change it and adjust it for different shooters inside your house, which is really nice. A guy like me, a fairly tall guy, can shoulder this just fine, but somebody like my wife who's 5'2" has a bit of an issue with the length of pull on a rifle like this. And if you really had that issue with a rifle like this, you could spend 40, 50 bucks and you could change this out with a mag pull. You could also change out the pistol grip as well, although honestly if you had a gun like this, I wouldn't suggest it, simply because this gun just looks really cool like it is, and as I'll show you in a second, it functions just fine without all of the tactical features that most people, including myself, throw on most of their rifles. The only thing I would suggest as far as a home defense gun for either of these two is that I would figure out if you're really going to use it for home defense, not just a wall hanger or something cool to plink with, I would suggest adding a white light of some kind. I would add a light to any firearm that I would use for defense, whether that be just duct taping a mag light to it or getting an Ultimac rail and putting a weapon light, a dedicated weapon light on it. Either one would work in a pinch, just because holding a rifle and holding a flashlight is difficult to do. So we're gonna shoot him quick. We'll shoot him at 50 yards, we'll put a mag through him, and I'll show you that even though I said the Ruger is a little bit less accurate, even though it has better sights and a little bit less recoil, or a little bit more recoil, I'm gonna shoot them probably just as good at 50 yards. So I'm gonna shoot the Mini first, and I wanna talk about the distance. I'm at 50 yards here. We're gonna be shooting at a full-size steel target. 50 yards is the closest that I shoot steel with standard full metal jacket ammunition. I do shoot frangible ammo with rifles sometimes. That's how you see me shooting up close with my steel. However, the Mini or the M16 clone don't have adjustable gas blocks, and the frangible ammo that I use, I think, is 45 grain and doesn't usually run unless you have an adjustable gas block. So we're gonna be shooting full metal jacket with these, and we're gonna be shooting at 50 yards, and we're just gonna play around with it and show the recoil and pulse and accuracy and just have a little bit of fun. So as you can see, even on that 1/3 IPSC target at 50 yards, still really easy to do. Recoil is really manageable. 223-556 is a very light recoiling round with still more than enough power to do what you need to do. There we go. So the AR-15, just as accurate, I have to say, but I was shooting a little bit high with the iron sights. This is a gun that is not mine. This is from a viewer. So apparently the zero is just a little bit high, and I had to aim a little bit low on the target, and once I did, I started connecting just fine. One of the little bit of distracting things about shooting this gun that I mentioned in the previous video is there is a lot of vibration and a lot of rattle in the stock, and that is not there with the Ruger. And it actually is a little bit distracting when you're shooting under rapid fire, but something that you can fix with different buffers, different stocks, things like that, if it really does bother you. Overall, this gun works very well. I really like that it takes AR-15 magazines because it is an AR-15. And I like the overall look, I like the overall feel, and I really like a 20-inch gun because it does have a rifle length gas system, as opposed to nowadays you get either carbine length, and a lot of guns now come with mid-length, but the rifle length gas system is the longest away from the action, so it actually is the smoothest shooting overall. So you can actually shoot a flash hider on a rifle length gas system, and it feels kind of like a break on a carbine length gas system. It's a lot softer shooting. So really nice. I like both guns overall. They both function very well. For a defensive gun, very similar. Both work extremely well, and just pick whichever you think looks cooler and whichever fits you the best. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Please help out your local homeless shelters, and remember to recycle. I'll check you later.